Delving into the ancient texts of the Bible, one might assume its prophecies are confined to the empires and peoples of antiquity. Yet, as the flickering candlelight dances across weathered parchment, a profound question often arises. Could these timeless pronouncements, veiled in metaphor and historical context, truly speak to the nations of our modern world? Could the echoes of distant epochs resonate with the geopolitical landscape of today? This journey promises to unlock perspectives that challenge conventional understanding, revealing layers of meaning within the sacred texts that bridge the chasm between the ancient past and our contemporary reality. Part 1. Introduction. Sowing the Seeds of Mystery. In the hushed glow of candlelight, amidst the quiet reverence of ages, we embark on a profound exploration. Imagine, if you will, the scrolls of antiquity, penned by prophets whose eyes glimpse not only their immediate horizon, but also the distant shores of time. Can these ancient visions, woven into the very fabric of the Holy Scriptures, truly contain echoes of nations that rise and fall in our modern era? It is a question that stirs the soul, inviting us to look beyond the surface, to discern patterns and pronouncements that transcend their immediate historical context. Tonight, we promise to journey into the heart of these prophetic texts, seeking the subtle whispers and overt declarations that many believe point to the very nations and conflicts shaping our world today. Part 2. The Deep Dive, a journey of discovery. The historical and cultural context of prophecy. To understand the potential modern implications of ancient prophecies, we must first immerse ourselves in their original historical and cultural milieu. Prophecy in the ancient Near East, and particularly within the Abrahamic traditions, was not merely fortune-telling. It was a divine communication, often delivered through chosen individuals, intended to reveal God's character, His will, and His overarching plan for humanity and creation. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel spoke to their immediate audiences, addressing contemporary political struggles, moral failings, and impending judgments. Their prophecies were often rooted in the covenant relationship between God and Israel, but they also frequently extended to surrounding nations, foretelling their rise, fall, and their role within God's grand narrative. For instance, the prophecies against Tyre, Egypt, Babylon, and Persia were understood within the geopolitical realities of their time. These nations were tangible threats, powerful empires, or significant trade partners for Israel. The language used was rich in metaphor and symbolism, employing imagery familiar to ancient ears: roaring lions, swift eagles, colossal statues, and terrifying beasts. The immediate fulfillment of many such prophecies in the ancient world served to validate the prophet's divine commission and strengthen the people's faith. However, the multi-layered nature of biblical prophecy often suggests a scope extending far beyond the immediate horizon, hinting at future fulfillments on a grander, even global scale. Decoding the Scripture, unveiling modern connections. The crucial question, then, becomes, how do we connect these ancient pronouncements to modern nations without imposing anachronistic interpretations? It requires careful hermeneutics, discerning between literal fulfillment, typological fulfillment, where an ancient event or person prefigures a future one, and thematic fulfillment. Scholars and theologians who propose modern fulfillments often look for several key indicators. Firstly, geographical locations are often explicitly mentioned. For example, Ezekiel 38-39 speaks of a coalition of nations that will attack Israel in the latter days. The nations mentioned include Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, along with Persia, Cush, Ethiopia, Put Libya, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah. Interpreters often link Magog to modern-day Russia, Meshech and Tubal to regions within Turkey, Persia directly to Iran, Cush to Sudan, Ethiopia, and Put to North African nations like Libya. The identification of Gog as a chief prince or prince of Rosh in some translations has led some to see a clear connection to Russia, given the linguistic similarity to Rosh. Secondly, national characteristics and alliances described in the prophecies are considered. Daniel's prophecies, particularly in chapters 2 and 7, describe successive world empires using symbolic imagery, like a statue with various metals and terrifying beasts. While traditionally interpreted as Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome, some scholars see a prophetic trajectory that culminates in a final, powerful empire that incorporates elements of previous ones, hinting at a future global superpower or a revived Roman Empire, perhaps encompassing modern European nations. Thirdly, patterns of behavior and geopolitical roles are examined. For instance, the King of the North and King of the South in Daniel 11 are often historically linked to the Seleucid and Ptolemaic empires. However, the detailed narrative of their conflicts and maneuvers, leading up to a climactic battle, is seen by some as extending beyond this initial fulfillment to describe future regional powers whose constant struggle affects Israel. The emphasis on nations hostile to Israel, particularly in the last days, forms a recurring motif. Finally, the timing of the prophecy is paramount. Many prophecies explicitly state they are for the latter days, the time of the end, or the last days. This temporal marker strongly suggests a future fulfillment, beyond the immediate context of the prophet. The re-establishment of the nation of Israel in 1948 is seen by many as a significant prophetic sign, triggering the countdown to many end-times prophecies, including those concerning surrounding nations. The hidden theological meaning, God's sovereignty and justice. Beyond the fascinating geopolitical connections, the deeper theological meaning of these prophecies is profound. They serve as a powerful testament to God's absolute sovereignty over human history. Even amidst the chaos of international relations, the rise and fall of empires, and the machinations of human leaders, the prophetic word asserts that God remains on his throne, orchestrating events according to his divine purpose. These prophecies demonstrate his knowledge of the future, his justice in judging nations for their sin, and his faithfulness to his covenant people, Israel. Moreover, these prophecies often carry a message of accountability. Nations, like individuals, are held responsible for their actions. The recurring theme of judgment against nations hostile to Israel or those engaging in widespread injustice serves as a moral compass, reminding humanity that there are ultimate consequences for hubris and oppression. It underscores the biblical worldview that history is not cyclical or random, but linear and teleological, moving towards a divinely appointed culmination. Controversies and theories. Navigating interpretive paths. The interpretation of ancient prophecies regarding modern nations is, predictably, fraught with controversy. Skeptics often argue against such interpretations, citing several concerns. One primary concern is the danger of eisegesis, reading modern events into the ancient text rather than drawing meaning out of it. The broad symbolism in ancient geographical names can be stretched to fit almost any modern nation, leading to speculative and often contradictory conclusions. Another point of contention is the literal versus symbolic interpretation. Should Magog be strictly a specific ancient people group, or does it represent a broader region or even a type of national aggression that recurs throughout history? Futurists, who believe these prophecies are yet to be fulfilled in a literal sense, often align ancient names with modern equivalents. Preterists, on the other hand, argue that most, if not all, of these prophecies were fulfilled in the ancient world. For example, in 70 AD, with the destruction of Jerusalem, and attempts to apply them to modern nations are misguided. Furthermore, the eschatological implications fuel debate. Different theological schools, for example, dispensationalism, covenant theology, have distinct frameworks for interpreting end-times prophecies, which naturally lead to different conclusions about modern national fulfillments. Some critics also point to a history of failed predictions, where past attempts to link biblical prophecy to contemporary events have proven incorrect, leading to a healthy skepticism about current interpretations. However, proponents of modern applications counter that, while caution is necessary, dismissing all such connections is to ignore the rich tapestry of biblical prophecy itself. They emphasize the consistent patterns of divine intervention, the enduring relevance of ancient geographical markers, and the clear indications within the texts themselves that some prophecies explicitly look forward to the last days. The very tension created by these controversies invites deeper study, compelling us to engage with the text not as a relic, but as a living word that continues to speak to our world. Part 3. Conclusion. An eternal echo. As our candlelight flickers, we draw our journey to a close, having explored the intriguing possibility that the ancient words of the prophets may indeed hold profound implications for the nations of our modern world. From the geographical markers of Ezekiel to the grand imperial narratives of Daniel, we have seen how many earnest interpreters believe these texts offer glimpses into today's geopolitical landscape, reaffirming God's sovereignty over all human affairs. Yet, this exploration is not about certainty in pinpointing every modern nation, but rather about the enduring power of the prophetic word. It leaves us with a profound reflection. If ancient prophets, speaking millennia ago, could see so far into the future, what does that tell us about the nature of the divine, and indeed, about our own place in this grand cosmic drama? What does it mean for us, living in times potentially prefigured in these sacred texts, to be witnesses to the unfolding of God's timeless plan? The echoes of these ancient pronouncements continue to resound, inviting us to live with vigilance, faith, and a deep sense of wonder at the intricate tapestry of history, woven by a hand both ancient and eternal.